everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 2 of season 2 of Tsurune. And I'll be honest, it's been a good little while since I watched Tsurune. I got done really early before stuff came out on Patreon and before it came out on YouTube because I wanted to watch season 2 right when it came out. So I watched ahead, watched episode 1, and then between my work schedule and then getting sick with the cold really bad, I have not been able to watch episodes 2 and 3 yet, which they've been out for a little while now, and it's been driving me crazy. But I'll be honest, I spent at least a couple days on my couch sick, like late at night, and I watched the English dub of Tsurune from my couch, and I was just like, yes. And it was so good, which I've heard the movie that just came out is basically season 1 with some extra scenes, so that's reason enough to watch, but also because they're doing the animation in the style that they're doing season 2, which means it's going to look freaking amazing. So I definitely want to see the movie when it comes out for those 2 reasons alone, because I love Tsurune and I love season 1 so much. The English dub is a gem. It's so cute. And I love the voices they have for the characters. It's great. I feel like a lot of the voice actors for the English dub of Tsurune also do the voice acting for the English dub of Run with the Wind. I think maybe that's because it's through High Dive as well. But some of the voices sound familiar and they're really well done. But yeah, I do have some comments before diving into this episode. There are still some comments I've not looked at on YouTube from season 1 that I will try to get to, and maybe if any of them need to be incorporated, I'll do that for episode 3, because I have a feeling I'm not gonna take too much time in between these 2 episodes since they're already out right now. I want to get back into Tsurune so I can talk on the Discord about them because it's been driving me crazy, and my Twitter timeline is covered up in Buddy Daddies and Tsurune of all things. So I can't get on Twitter right now. I don't want to mute the word Tsurune because I do like seeing the artwork from it, but it gives me encouragement to catch up. So I can get on my timeline and not feel spoiled. So I do have 3 comments mainly before we dive into this episode. Whoosh and Sweebian had a really good comment about in episode 13 that when Tommy, he says that he regretted calling out Minato and making him shoot that very first day way back in episode 1. Funny enough, that move was the catalyst for Minato meeting Misaki. And I was like, yeah, so Tommy may regret it, but that was the best decision he could have made, right? And it's so funny that the 2 upperclassmen who come to the aid of Sanji, of Manji, and Seninji and Manji at the end, the twins at the end of season 1, they're the ones that told the twins to blow it earlier on in the season. So it's funny how things kind of come full circle and kind of change in the long run, right? Some things, as Minato says, are meant to be. So I love that. I thought that was really, really cute. And then Aaron. I really loved Aaron's comment on Patreon at the end of season 1, talking about how Minato, he has impacted nearly everybody in the show, and in turn, they've impacted him. I like character development throughout a series where the main character has that impact on others around them, and then they in turn reflect that impact back upon him. And I really love this paragraph. This paragraph, Aaron, I don't know if you made this up, Aaron, or if you copied it from something, but it is poetic genius. But I'm going to read verbatim. Because when we are all at peace with ourselves, when we know where we belong, when we find common purpose with others, then our joy and wonder and sense of well-being naturally radiates outward to other people, like a light or a ripple or a sound, like Tsurune. And I was like, that paragraph just spoke to me, Aaron. I thought that was beautiful. And yeah, that's literally that's the thesis of this show, is that it's all about us all connecting, finding ourselves, finding out where we belong, going after a common purpose, and doing so with others, making ourselves better and in turn making others better around us. Tsurune. Right? What can we do? So I thought that was a really great comment. And then finally, that English dub. I watched the English dub of season 1, and at the very end of episode 13, when Shu comes down those steps and he looks at Minato and he mouths something, I speculated on that for ages, and nobody ever commented because y'all are kind and you don't want to spoil me, but no one ever said anything. And I was like, what did he say? Are we ever going to find out? In the English dub, if you have the subtitles on, when he comes down the stairs and looks at Minato and mouths it, the subtitles say, "Welcome back." I love that. I was like, oh, I felt like the show spoiled me itself. And I was like, well, okay then. I guess you're going to tell us. But yeah, welcome back. That's perfect, actually. That's perfect. Him saying that to Minato, saying welcome back to the world of Kyudo. That's a very Shu thing to say and very perfect. So love it. So we've established in the last episode was a nice little get back to the basics, learn back to what Kyudo was, all that jazz. But there's basically going to be a regional qualifier. Technically, Kazumai's already qualified, so they're just doing this for the fun of it. But if Kirasaki wants to go to nationals, they have to qualify through this regional tournament, right? So it seems like it's kind of like a fun little preview for Kazumai to see like what the competition might be like, but they've already qualified. Whereas for Kirasaki, this is going to be pretty serious. They're going to need to do their best, right? So I'm very curious to see what we get in this episode, what it leads up to, but it's Tsurune, so you know it's gonna look beautiful. I can actually watch the OP now. I won't have to stop myself. It's just a good day for Tsurune. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let's not waste any more time, shall we? We are gonna dive into episode 2 of season 2 of Tsurune, and we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. I love Tsurune. What I love about it, pretty much KyoAni, if you can just do sports anime for the rest of your studio's careers, that'd be great. Because what I love about KyoAni, and this is true of Free, and it is true of Tsurune, is they don't just do a sports anime where you go to the sport and it happens, right? I feel like with series like Haikyuu, with series like Ace of the Diamond, and with series like, I guess Kuroko's basketball kind of deviates from that a little bit, right? But most of those series follow just what's happening on the field, on the court. Whereas KyoAni is kind of like, yeah, the sports are there, but this is more of like an intense character study, and the sports are a anchor for these characters and a way for them to connect. And I like that because oftentimes, yeah, it is the sport, but it's about the people involved and the connections you make and learning about yourself and all that good stuff, you know, than it is the actual sport itself. And I feel like Tsurune follows Free and Sue to that because I love like diving into characters, finding out what their home lives are like, finding out what they're like outside the field and stuff, because typically they are very different, right? And man, we get a whole bunch of that in this episode, and there's lots of connections, and that's why I brought Whiteboard Kun out, because I was like, we have character connections, we have stuff being set up that I'm assuming they're going to explore this season. I'm here for it. So far we've not gotten as much focus on Nanao, which is what I want this season, but I feel like we're only 2 episodes into a 13 episode series. We have plenty of time for that, but we've already set up some stuff with Ryohei. We're setting some stuff up with Kaito, so that's interesting, and setting stuff up with the twins and Shu. So I'm very fascinated by that, right? But this episode was just a lot of fun. And God, the animation of those twins scuttling like little hermit crabs away from the one guy, best animation I've seen in a long time. That was the funniest damn thing. The funniest damn thing. But so Kirasaki. Let's establish Kirasaki. Like, Kirasaki is a very prestigious school. They have their own security guards outside the gates. Anytime it's a gated community, you know there's money involved, right? So we've got Shu. We're going to put him up here. Deal with his stuff. Shu is our rich boy. Rich boy being the understatement of the century. He is loaded, and we'll talk about him inside. Then we have Cinny, and I'm just going to call him Cinny by his nickname. Cinny and Manji. I really like what this series is doing with the twins, because even though they're identical, I already am on board with what the series is doing by making them different. Because like I've talked about last season, twins in sports anime either go one of 2 ways. Either they are just little carbon copies and they have no personality, or little to none. And I think of honestly Joda and Jito. See, I can't. Joji and Joda in Run with the Wind. I love Run with the Wind. It's one of my favorites. but the twins in that series get the least focus out of all 10, and they don't really, they're the least compelling because they don't, it seems like the series creator doesn't know what to do with them, right? And then you have characters like Atsumu and Osamu in Haikyuu who are twins that are identical, but they have very different personalities and they are developed. So you can either go one of two ways. And I was afraid in season 1 that the twins were going to become the running joke of just, they imitate each other, they're annoying, they're not nice, they're kind of mean-spirited, and I didn't like the twins in season 1. In this one episode alone, I am already way more on board with the twins than I was the entirety of season 1. In this one episode, I am already way more invested in their characters than I ever was in season 1, and it's because the creators are making them somewhat different. Like we established, Cinny, he kind of has like a hero worship of Shu. He put Shu on a pretty damn big pedestal. Everybody does. I feel like with Shu, we're starting to kind of see the cracks underneath Shu, that he has this constant pressure of being perfect, which is kind of similar to Seiya, and that's kind of ironic because he gave Seiya such a hard time last season. Interesting parallels. And then we have Manji, who is dealing with his feelings of inadequacy. He's feeling inadequate, and that he isn't worthy to be on the first string anymore. He wants to get better, and he doesn't want to feel like he's holding his teammates back. And Cindy's like, you're not holding anybody back. But the upperclassmen and Shu are kind of like, well, you have to make this decision, and we're not going to stop you if you make it. So there we go, right? So that's interesting, though. But yeah, we instantly start out with Kirasaki being the very fancy school. And the coach is like, okay, this year the winner of regionals will get a special invitation to nationals. So we're not guaranteed anything unless we win. And it's like, well, that's not pressure at all, right? I like that we established who the 4 third years are. There's the girl, the Sase, the president, and then we have the others, right? So basically you're obviously Sase and the president and Shu are 3, and then Cinny and Manji was going to be the 5th, and the first runner-up is the one guy. Yeah. So they have a pretty giant Kyudo club. And then that's when Manji says, I want to be taken off the regular lineup. And I feel like he did not consult Cinny or Shu in this decision. He just was like, nope, this is mine to make. And he went to the coach without them, which is pretty interesting. And Cinny's like, excuse me, what are we doing? He says he came to me before, but I'm asking the upperclassmen, what do you think? And what's interesting here is that the president's kind of like, oh, we have a say in this? Oh. And he looks over Sase, and Sase's like, Sase's like, I'm not about this, right? It seems like Sase's like, why aren't you doing this? You're good. Why are you stepping down? But the president, he says, is this because of the prefecture that you did this? And he says he's gotten over his target panic. But Masaki established you don't just immediately get over it. It's a work in progress. So he may think that he's over it, but he may not be. And he says he can't get past this habit of fast drawing. So both of them do have the habit of fast draw that set them apart, and then what to do with it, right? Because they were so mean last season and giving Minato a hard time. Minato's like, hey, that fast drawing you do might lead you to target panic. Case in point. But what's interesting about it is that Kaito, who is our ice boy, we're going to put Kaito, I'm going to put Kaito right here. Kaito, he's technically a second year and was in junior high at Kirasaki. He has a unique style of shooting, right? He has a unique style of shooting, and he seems like he goes all in on it. We haven't seen him shoot yet, but I'm imagining that he's going to be like doing this crazy style of Kyudo that everybody's like, the pearl clutchings will be like, this is against tradition. And he's like, I feel like Nakaito's like the bad boy that's like, screw tradition, I'm going to do my way. I could see like maybe at Kirasaki they frowned upon that and didn't want him in the lineup because he wasn't following tradition. And then he left being like, screw y'all, I'm going to do my own thing. I imagine that with Nikaido. But I imagine part of Nikaido's story might be like carving his own way and showing that you can do things your own way. And as long as it's good, it doesn't matter. Maybe that fast draw will be something Cindy and Manji make their own in a similar way. I don't know. That's yet to be seen, right? But Manji is like, no, I'm not going to be, I don't feel like I can bring anything useful to the team as I am now. Now, once they get to nationals, he may show that is not the case, right? But man, the animation, Cindy just looks so sad. He's like, whoa. And the president says, will you not regret your choice? And he's like, no. And I feel like he's a first year, so there's not as much pressure riding on him if he's a first year. And if he doesn't end up going to nationals, he still has a second and third year competition. So if there's a time for you to figure out that something's wrong and you need to correct it, now's the time, because you have 2 more years of competition that you can still compete at, right? If Sase had this problem right now, then that would be a big issue because it's his last year of competition. And they ask Shu what he thinks. And I feel like Shu's kind of like, but why am I being asked? Like, what do I have to do? I feel like the president feels like Shu will eventually be captain of the team when he's gone. And maybe they're setting him up to be captain his second year. Maybe that's the case. But I feel like Shu gets a lot of pressure to be the perfect prince. And so now it kind of makes even more sense why he wanted Minato to stick around and why he draws so much inspiration from Minato. Because he's like, look, I'm always pressured to be perfect. And Minato kind of doesn't treat him that way. Like, Minato views him as a really good archer, but Minato never seems to put him on like a pedestal or treat him like he's special. He just treats him like a friend. And I feel like that's what Shu wants and needs in his life. And so that's why he admires Minato so much. But I feel like he views Minato as like the one thing keeping him like chasing Kyudo, because otherwise everybody just kind of puts him on the spot and he doesn't feel comfortable with it. And then he just tells Manji, if that's what you want, then do what you got to do. And Manji's like, I'm asking myself. And Cindy just seems so distraught about it. I don't think that'll be the case, but I hope that it doesn't hurt Cindy's performance not having his brother there. Like, because I want to say that Manji was the one that was in front of Cindy. So I don't know if it's going to be the thing where Cindy, because his brother is in front of him, that he can rely upon, if that's going to affect his shooting. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes down. What do we do about his replacement? And then the fairest thing is to bump up our first substitute. Does that sound right? Kabashima. Kabashima is the maroon-haired guy, Kabashima. And he's like, I'm sure, I'll do my best. So Kabashima, I need to remember his name. Kabashima's like, are you sure about this? And he's like, like, this is what I want. He's like, so be it, count me in. And that's what we do. Kabashima will be the regular in place of Manji moving forward. And I like that we see like the 3 dandelions and the 2 sprigs are like separating in opposite directions. Like the twins are moving in different ways. OP's glorious. OP's gorgeous. Now we have Shu siblings. We understand what that is. That's great. I'm so excited. And there's someone here with Nikaido and a garden. Gonna get backstory on that. And Shu being by himself and Minato being by himself. And then this series does nothing to ease the Minato and Misaki shipping. It's all just a big harem at this point. I feel like our love square continues, right? It's all just a big love square at this point, and it's amazing, but man, okay. So we get past this. Get past this to our opening. And Cindy like tries to talk to Shu, being like my brother sounds like he's being tough, but he's probably really worried. I feel Cindy's frustration is that he doesn't understand why his brother's doing this, and they're twins. They've always been together, so he's kind of like, he doesn't know how to play it. But man, we're gonna talk about KyoAni, y'all. KyoAni, with this damn animation of him putting that shirt on, they just took like one arm movement and made it like the sexiest thing ever. I'm like, what are you doing, KyoAni? Shouldn't we respect a decision like that? Like she was like, this is an important move. Like, it's not something you just take lightly, taking yourself out of the tournament. There's a reason for it, and we should respect Manji's decision and support him. like, until he's better to come back. And to where he can get where he wants to be. And I like that Cindy says, you're always so... He's like, but you know, I know you're an amazing shot. And she was like, but I'm not, though. It's like, there are plenty of archers far better than me out there. Which is so fascinating, because last season, they painted Shu up to be like the prince, the premier archer, like, who's better than him? Like, they painted him to be like the end-all be-all, but it was everyone else's perspective of Shu. Shu is pretty humble, to be honest. Shu is pretty humble. He does not see himself as well as others do, which I think is rather interesting. He doesn't see himself in that same light. He's pretty humble about it. And Cindy kind of he just really respects Shu. And she just stares at him like, I don't know what to tell you. And that's when Cindy goes to check on Manji. He's like, just taking a bunch of shots is not going to help him get over his troubles. And she was like, I don't know what to do with that. It's interesting. And so, yeah, and Cindy's like, what's Shu's deal? And Manji says, you idolize him too much. He's human just like anybody else. He's human too, you know. We can't rely on him for everything. And Cindy's like, what's your deal? Did that target panic leave you all philosophical or something? And the funny thing is, much like with Minato, Manji, he kind of, you know, when you go through an ordeal like that, it does make you think about things from a different perspective. And so maybe he is thinking about things more philosophically. It seems to work that way for Minato. So I'm very curious to know if we will actually get anything with Minato and Manji. If will Manji ask Minato for assistance or for advice? Will he? We don't know. I think it would be cool if he asked Minato about the target panic and what he does. It would give Manji and Minato a chance to talk and for them to kind of come together, since the last season they were pretty much always at Minato's like teasing him and whatnot. We'll see. But then he said, I'm going to quick draw. I do like that Cindy is like, I'm going to stop quick drawing so that you can get back to me and we can still shoot together. And he misses the shot. And I like that Manji kind of makes fun of him for missing it. Okay, so can we talk about how wealthy Shu is? Having his own limo driver. Shu is fascinating. The gated community. Like, it's not just a house. He lives at a compound. Like, there's a driveway. It looks like a hotel. There's a giant koi pond. It is an absolute mansion that he's living in, right? And the inside, I'm like, KyoAni, it's so gorgeous, but it's so empty, right? It's very, very empty and quiet. And it seems bigger than what should be. And so they say, welcome home, young Shu. And so Tojo-san. So we have the butler. We have Tojo-san, who seems like he's the butler. But is it kind of weird that he has like purple eyes and kind of has hair like Shu? Is it weird that that's a thing? Am I doing like the conspiracy theory that the butler is actually Shu's father? Can I do that? Can I theorize that because they have like the same hair? And then Miss Sei, she does not look like Shu at all. And that's his little baby sister. And he's like, oh, well, now, hi there, Sei. So we have Sei, who is the sister. We get a lot of things about siblings. There's a lot of talk about siblings in this that I think are going to be we're going to invest in this season. So we have Shu and his sister. We have the twins who are each other's brothers. Minato, as we established, is an only child. Right? We have that. Want to make note about a few things. Ryohei is not an only child. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to put Ryohei here. He said he has an older sister. Right? He has an older sister. We're going to put that there. We have Seiya. Seiya having an older brother is bizarre because we've heard nothing about his older brother. at all. I'm assuming maybe his older brother is a lot older than him, and maybe that's why that he's like already out of the house and like has a job and lives far away. I imagine maybe he's like a really older brother and there's a big age gap between them. Maybe. We're going to say that. And then Kaito and Nanao, I'm going to put them together. They don't seem to have siblings. They seem like only children as well, but we don't know yet, right? They seem to just have each other, which is fine. It's just interesting. But yeah, I wanted to go back and look at the parents' picture. So I like the sister immediately knows if something's wrong. Like she's very perceptive. She knows her brother. And you know what it reminds me of? If you've ever watched Modao Zushi, it's a donghua. In Modao Zushi, there's two brothers, Lan Wangji and Lan Jishin. And Lan Wangji is very much like Shu. He's very stoic, does not have a lot of facial expressions, is very reserved. But Jishin, his brother, immediately is like, oh, you're feeling sad today. And the other characters are like, how do you know? Right? And so the fact that she can tell her brother is sad reminded me a lot of that moment. I thought that was really funny. And he's like, oh, I'm not sad. What were you waiting to see me for? And she's like, I saw the name of your school. And so, classiest house ever. They have like a record player while they're eating dinner. And it looks like the butler made them like tempura shrimp. Like they have sashimi. They have like a full course meal. And she says the 53rd annual regional Kyudo tournament. You're going to produce, and we see Kazumai, Kirasaki, and Wakara. I wonder if Wakara is where Nikaido goes to. She's like, I want to go and show my support. Would you mind? And she was like, well, don't you have piano practice? And she's like, well, I can miss a single day. So she has piano, and Shu, being the diligent big brother, is like, no, you need to go to piano practice because just like Kyudo, you don't need to miss a day of practice. It's fine. She does it anyway because she's a rebellious younger sister, right? I also feel sad that like Tojo-san is just standing there, like, let him sit there. There's nobody else around in the house. I know it's formalities and there's a cultural thing there, but I'm like, there's nobody else at the table. It's just Shu and Sai. Like let the old man sit down and eat dinner with them. Like, he's taking care of your kids, damn it. So, and so interesting because I don't think the parents are dead because unlike Minato's house where there's the shrine, there's nothing like that suggestive here. Although this is a very Western style house, so curious. It's hard to get back in track once you slip off. And she's like, you don't want me to come and watch, do you? And he's like, no, that's not true. And she's like, yes, it is. And I like that he's like, well, maybe it is. And we see like in the background there's the wedding pictures of his parents. There's like a set of grandparents there next to him and her. There's the grandfather, it looks like, with Shu and the others. And then there's like a horse involved. And then there's Shu with the baby carriage that has Sai in it. Or Sei. He's like, I might get nervous if you're watching. And she's like, you? And he says, yeah. So we see like, okay, we see the family there. Okay, I guess my butler theory's off. Because the mom, Shu and the mom both have the same eyes. Like, she has the same eyes as he does. But she has dark hair and the dad has dark hair. Shu just lucked out with beautiful hair. Right? Like, he's there. And then we see them with the horse and everything. Okay. Curious. I'd rather not let you see me make any mistakes. And then he thinks of making the mistake with Shu and them. So it is interesting that these things are weighing on Shu's mind, that he obviously is feeling pressure just like everybody else. He just is not vocalizing it or emoting it to the same extent as everyone either. That's rather interesting. But then, yeah, it cuts back to the sister. And he tenses up about it. But he seems like he's thinking about it, but he also, he's thinking about Minato too, so he's smiling. So maybe he's not feeling bad about it. He just knows he needs to get better. I feel like maybe Shu is happy with the idea that he's not perfect because everyone thinks he is, and maybe he feels more human in the fact that he's not a perfect archer, right? Like everybody thinks he is. But man, she's like, you can be so odd. And we cut from that like beautiful mansion to Minato's very humble home in the burbs. I just, it's a beautiful dynamic. And then we have Minato standing in front of the shrine of his mother and wishing her off. And this part always gets me. God, this part where he's like, do your best out there. And he goes off to sea and has all his stuff there. And then that little spot in his room, like where he's been practicing, right? Mm-hmm. It's either where he's been practicing his archery and his stance and everything, or it's where he's been standing in front of his mother's shrine. One of the two. I think it's where he's been practicing his archery. I do love that when Minato just is like embracing Kuma, and then Seiya's like, Minato's recharging his batteries, right? He's just hugging Kuma and just recharging. It's great. That's so funny. So then we see what's taken so long to now. I'm about to leave without you. And he's like, my bangs are in the way. So it's very interesting because it seems like Nanao spends a lot of his time at Kaito's house. So Nanao is always over at Kaito's. I think we've seen Nanao's bedroom. I think we've seen it in the last season. But I'm wondering if maybe Nanao's home life isn't great. Or if there's a reason why he's always over at Kaito's. They're cousins. So maybe that's the case. I don't know. And then we have the stuff with Ryohei, where he's getting all of his stuff ready to go. He says, I'll be home for dinner. And there's no answer. He's packing up all his stuff. And it says knock first, which he does. He says, I'm headed off for my tournament. The best kids from the prefectures will be there. I'm going to do my best. I'm so curious. I'm like, KyoAni, what are you doing? KyoAni, you're going to break my heart, aren't you? Because Ryohei is the sweetest character. And I have a feeling there's something wrong with his sister. There's something wrong. Like she's either she can't speak, or she's like a shut-in, or she's really sick, or she's, I don't know, maybe she's dead. Who knows? And he's just talking to her spirit. I don't know. But I just have, like, episode 2 has jaded me permanently. From season 1, I just feel like KyoAni is setting up something really sad with Ryohei's backstory and his family life, and that's why he's so kind. And I'm not ready for that, KyoAni. I'm like, don't you dare. You made me sob like a baby with Violet Evergarden. Don't you dare. But it seems like something is off, right? Something is quote-unquote off with his family, right? That we don't know about yet. That's got his mind kind of in a tizzy. But I do love the feel of a tournament. Like, it's just so great. The excitement and the stress in the air. Yes, I'm coaching a speech team now, and we've been to a few tournaments, and just the feeling from this series reminds me of that feeling when you go to the tournament. Just everybody's all like on pins and needles, and it's the feeling, the emotions. It's all there. This episode reminded me a lot of it, right? It's hard not to be nervous with so many around. And I like that Nanao's like, hey, we've already got a ticket to nationals. We're fine. And Kaito's like, no, we can't think that way. We've got to be on our game. And Nanao's like, I'm just saying we don't need to stress out, right? We don't need to stress. I love Tommy Sensei's there with his sweet cardigan, his sweet sweater vest. And then Masaki looks like the most coachy daddy, doesn't he? Like, he has like the shirt tucked in with the belt. He looks very official, right? He does not wearing skinny jeans. He looks very, very professional, right? He looks like a coach. And he's like, hey, your glove's right there. And he's like, oh yeah, I already took it out. I love that Kaito's just like, you can see Kaito out to the side being like, oh my God, I thought you forgot your glove. And then I was like, oh, it's a good thing you didn't. Like, Ryohei is just nervous. And he's like, we'll just do things like we normally do. And I like that Masaki's like, let's go ahead and eat. I love Kaito's face like we're going to eat now? And he's like, yeah, because agreed, you need to eat early if you're not going to eat for a long time, right? Need to go ahead and get that over with. So Kaito goes to the restroom. All bad things happen when you go to the restroom. And then he sees these two people here that he recognizes. This bowl cut and this other guy. He's like, are you still practicing Kyudo? He's like, yeah, I guess. Like, he's very uncharacteristically nonchalant, right? Which is kind of crazy. He's like, how could we not after what you put us through? So Kaito's got beef with these guys, and Nanao doesn't seem to recognize them, or Nanao doesn't notice them, right? So Kaito, there's two guys that are not doing Kyudo, two guys watching at the school. And he says, after what you put us through, and he's just scratching his face, and Kaito just kind of like tenses up for a second, and he's like, oh, about that. Like he wants to maybe apologize. And then they realize he's from Kazumai. And they say the champion school, and he's like, and Kaito's just like, yeah, we've got nothing to brag about, but we'll be rooting out there. So, they're all like grabbing him, both of them, but like, what are they doing? What's his relationship with them? Oh, we'll be rooting out there. No, we have nothing to brag about. Show us what you're made of. What is their deal? What's happened there? And Kaito, oddly enough, he just leans his head back and just sighs, like these are the last people he wanted to see there, like, I've got to deal with this now, which he does really well for himself, but like, so curious, right? Like, what's their deal? What's up with this? And he says, how can you even talk to him like nothing happened? It doesn't really bother me. And Nanao seems to notice something, like, I don't know if Nanao recognizes them, knows what's going on, has any idea, but he sees Kaito and he's like, hey, Kachan, like, you done with your bathroom break? You okay? And he says he's fine, and then goes on. I love them checking on him. It's great. So, man, so mystery. So mystery with Kaito. We don't know what's happened with those middle school guys, but we're just going to put it on the back burner for now. There's so much in this episode. So then we get to Seiyo. And Seiyo's like grabbing her food, and Ryohei is like trying to do the college, like get to your dorm carrying all the things. And he's like, oh, I can carry that. And she's like, oh no, I'll be fine. He's like, do you have an older or younger sister? And he says, oh, why? And she's like, you just seem so close. And he says, I do have an older sister. But he's like, am I in your personal space? I'm like, no. Ryohei is going to make someone a very good husband one day. He is, because he's so kind and sweet. She's like, no, most teenage hormonal boys are just prickly like Kaito. But, you have a natural kindness about you. I love that. She's like, she basically is telling Ryohei, being like, you're going to get the ladies, basically, or the guys, because you're that good. You have a natural kindness. It's like, okay. Like, she's basically saying, like, don't worry, Ryohei. You're going to get yourself a nice partner because you're that good. And Ryohei just doesn't seem to see it. But what I like about this is that as he's looking over, Ryohei cannot help but help people. And so when he sees Sei and the butler, like, looking around, he's like, oh, I'll go help them. And Seiyo's like, my point in general. He's just, I just imagine him being like a preschool teacher or a counselor or like maybe a special education teacher. I don't know. I just see Ryohei being perfect working and helping people because he just seems like that type of person. And that's when he sets them up. And I love that he gets down on her level when they are sitting down. He gets down on her level to talk to her. Like, he would be so good with kids. Ryohei would be. He'd be so perfect with children. Like, he knows instantly what to do. And of course, the Kazaki guy, the Nakazaki guy, is sitting next to them. And he sees what he does too. It's really cute. And so yeah, they're all eating lunch. And Ryohei feels better. He's like, I felt like I was nervous in this big school. And Minato was like, we're all calm, cool, collected. We got this, right? And then you could tell Minato's in a really good mood. And he's like, no, I'm just ready to go out there and take as many shots. I love that he looks at Seiya and he's like, let's take as many shots as we can out there, Seiya. And Seiya's like, I'm not really a fist bumping kind of guy, but okay. And we see Misaki creepily behind them. It's not creepy. It's just kind of funny that he's behind them watching, right? It's great. It's great. And so then we have Shu and them getting ready to go with the president and all that. This part here, I love Kabashima being like, I'll avenge you out there. I love it. And they're both just like, what? The funniest damn moment in this whole episode is Kabushima being like, I'll avenge you. And the twins are like, ew, no. Cringy. No. And then he's like, you can put your faith in me. And I love that he just like, they don't even like walk. They just kind of like crab walk away. It's the funniest animation I've ever seen. I can't get over it. He's like, what are you running away for? Funniest thing ever. I cannot tell you all how much I love it. And so then they begin the boys tournament. And I like that we go back to the basics. If you've been waiting a few years to watch season 2, we're going to show you how a tournament works again. And through Sei, she's seeing her brother work, right? Now, what's interesting is that Kirasaki is watching all of them, right? And is watching Kazumi face the other team. And we cut over to Shu. Shu's just got his eyes on Minato. She was like watching him, right? Everybody is. And I like that Sase has his Noririn fan. But the butler, he sees, like, I like that Shu sees Minato and all that, right? But the butler remembers seeing Minato walking home with Shu before the end of the day, before he picked him up in his fancy car. And so everybody does pretty good. Ryohei misses 2 shots. Nanao misses 1. And Minato misses 1. He misses the last one. And Seiya and Kaito managed to make all their shots. What's interesting is right at the very end, I remember looking over there and seeing, you could see his grip loosen on the last shot. And I didn't think much of it. I was like, oh, well, it's just a little detail KyoAni's like adding in. But then Masaki says later, you missed the shot because you loosened your grip. And I was like, oh, look at that. All makes sense now, right? That all makes sense. Cool. And so then we have the archer. And I like how Nakasaki, he talks about like competitions like this are always a good thing because you never know what to expect. He's like, lots of things can be predicting, like the weather, the archer's condition, you know, their mental state. Like they all impact how they'll do that day. So it's hard to predict, like just because you do good one day does not mean that you're going to do good the rest of the time, right? But they end up doing all right. And they all clap for everyone making all their shots, whether they're an opponent or not. And I like that little Sei is like, oh, respect. Like that's a key point of Kyudo is respect for your fellow archers. But yeah, I want to see like, I love she's like watching him and she's just like waiting for him to go. And yeah, that grip loosens just a bit. You see it, like the pinky moves just so slightly. And it makes him miss. Barely. And Masaki notices it, right? But they managed to beat Mikage High, right? And Minato's looking at the scorebook. He's like, you don't seem satisfied. And he's like, it went by so fast. I could have shot a bunch more. And I love that Masaki's like, nope, bonk. He gives him like the horny jail bonk. He's like, no. He's like, winning gets you more chances to shoot, you know. It's like, just so you're aware. He's like, oh, I'm aware. Are you sure about that? Again, the banter between them. I'm still on the fence whether I ship Masaki and Minato because of the age difference. I'm still on the fence. But you can't deny that moments like these, I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. I saw you let up your grip. He's like, how'd you even notice? Yeah. And that's when one of the arrows isn't mine. I had never thought about this. I had not thought about the idea of the people gathering the arrows returning the wrong one. Like poor Ryohei has had a tournament so far. Ryohei's had a lot of misluck and anxiety with this tournament. But yeah, someone put back the wrong arrow. And at first I was like, well, what difference does that make? That's fine, right? But I didn't think about like the length of the arrow. If it doesn't match the length of his arm, it's not going to work, right? Because Nanao and Kaito, Nanao tries using his arrow, doesn't work. Kaito has one extra arrow and it barely fits. But with Ryohei's height, it makes sense that him and Shu are the more compatible. And of course, Minato was like, well, we'll just go ask Shu. He's my bestie. He'll loan us an arrow. He's loaded. We got this. It's fine. And Ryohei's like, well, I just don't want to go. You know, do you think your friend's going to say yes? And it's like, if it's involved with Minato, yes. He's going to say yes. But it's not just that. I feel like Minato, what makes him and Shu such a good couple is that, and such good friends, is because with Shu, everyone seems to be like an arm's length from him, either because they're intimidated by maybe his status, maybe they all know he's wealthy, maybe they're intimidated because he's so quiet, maybe because he's a good archer and has this aura about him. Everyone seems to like put Shu at an arm's length distance or put him on a pedestal. But Minato's just like, oh, he's just a guy, let's go. Like, he doesn't treat Shu any differently than anybody else. And everybody else is kind of like worried. And I like to say as smiling there, like, yeah, go get your arrow from him. You know he's going to give you an arrow. And Ryohei's like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, let's go. And Kaito's like, does he really think a rival school is going to play that nice? And Seiya's like, well, you know, he will. And then I like the one twin, Senni. Now, Manji, you can tell Manji, I know one part's their hair one way, one part's their hair the other way. Manji is just like, okay. He's pretty mellow towards Minato. Senni is still like amped up, and he's like, and she was like, sure. And he's like, what do you mean? And Ryohei's like, okay, really? And Ryohei, Shu doesn't even know that Ryohei's been talking to his sister yet. Doesn't even know. He's like, would you like to lend out something? Like, once he figures out that, like, I want Ryohei to get invited over to Shu's house. That's what I want. I want to see Golden Retriever Ryohei hanging out with Sei and the others. Do you want to lend me something so important? And he's like, is there any reason not to? And then I like that Manji like has to pull Senni back. And then he pulls out these beautiful arrows. And they're the right length. And I like that, Ryohei's like, oh, these aren't turkey feathers like mine. He goes, no, they're black eagle feathers. Of course they're black eagle feathers. Why would we doubt it? He's like, a black eagle. He's like, is that crazy or something? Isn't that, are they going to be poached or something? I want to know, because he said 50,000 yen for an arrow. How much be that? 50,000. Oh, those arrows are $385 a piece. Oh. Holy crap. Yeah, they're like nearly $400 arrows. Okay. And I love that Ryohei is like, what if I break one? And Shu's like, oh, they're not going to break easily. They're the good stuff. I love the twins are like, so fancy. No wonder she was okay with that coffee shop in the OVA. $6 coffee. I'm buying $400 arrows. What are you talking about? And he's like, are you sure? He's like, I'll borrow these then. And he says, thanks, Fujiwara-kun. And Fujiwara's just like, oh, friendship acquired. Like, Fujiwara was like, oh, wait, what? Like, you treated me like a normal person, like Minato. Like, Fujiwara has acquired a new friend. And then Minato says, thanks, Shu. And he says, good luck in round 2. He's like, we'll be watching your first round. I like Minato's like, I'll be watching. I can't wait to see how you shoot. And then he's like, later then. And then Shu's like, well. And they say they're full of themselves, but Senni says that. But Manji's like, they're not, and you know it. And then we see Minato, and Shu's like, I love that man. And then he gets serious. He's like, okay, my man's watching us. We got to put on a good show. We got to do this right? Oh my gosh. And then, of course, at the very end, Minato-chan. Nikaido, I can't get over Nikaido. He is such an edgelord already. I'm like, no, oh my God. I'm like, he's so, like, just walking around with his hood up, like, trying to be cool. The one with the mask on is really cool. I don't even know him. And the guy with the purple highlights. Okay, the one guy looks quiet. The other guy looks super... Okay, look, the guy with the pink jacket on looks like the Nanao equivalent, right? The guy with the mask on looks like the Seiya equivalent. The guy with the pink streaks through his hair seems like the Kaito equivalent. The guy with the hair, kind of the one that's the meathead, he seems like their Ryohei. Their meat-headed Ryohei. And then Nikaido is Minato's, like, formidable opponent. Like, they're like the nega team, right? And then, like, he has to put his bow against thing and whip off the hood. Of course he does. Because he's just like, has to be so cool. He's like if Notori had a glow up and decided to do Kyudo. This is Notori's brother, Kaito. I'm fully convinced. He's like, you're Kaito. Forget me already. No, he's Notori's brother, y'all. We're going in universe with this. He's Notori's brother, the hot one. Yep. Headcanon. He's like, I never was a sword that could stand out much. Like, bullshit. You just said you did a whole different style. And I was like, no, that's not it. Oh, and I like this one guy's like, give me a break. You know you're the exact opposite. Like, you definitely stand out. He's like, don't be mean. And then Sujimini. Okay, Sujimini High. Okay, Sujimini. Okay, and he's the first that plays. Okay. He's like, neither of us made it to Kirasaki then. And he's like, oh, I look forward to seeing you out there. But he's really like glum. And Ryohei's like, who's that? And then he has like the turquoise, a year ahead of me at Kirasaki. Eisuke and Kaito. Mm-hmm. So he's not Notori's brother, but like they're probably cousins. And then of course, like add another one to the harem. This is the tsundere one. Or maybe not tsundere. That's not the right term for it. He practiced a different style than us, but his form was just the coolest. Like Minato's just happy to face everybody. He's like, I'm just happy to have another archer to compete against. Isn't that fun? God, Minato's in such a good place. Good job, show. Don't ruin that. And then one guy's, let's go smash things up. Okay, meathead. Baka. I've got to put my hood up so that Shu doesn't recognize me until the apt moment. All in the mind. So yeah, basically this episode talking about how each character is just thinking of things, like just running through things in their head that they're getting, you know, anxious or thinking about. Like everything's all mental in this episode, right? It's all just these mental hurdles that our characters are setting up. So, I want Ryohei and Shu to become besties. I want to know about Kaito and these mysterious people from his past. I want to know about Ryohei and his sister, if that's his sister. I want to know about Kaito and his crazy team of misfits. They look like a fun time. I'm excited to see what all we're going to get in episode 3. And I'm probably going to watch it real soon. I've got some comments I want to look at before then and see if there's anything I want to mention in the next episode. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited indeed. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. I look forward to hearing your comments. And I will be back very soon with episode 3 of season 2 of Tsurune. Bye.